Hey guys, welcome back to Election Center, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the third-party candidates in the 2020 U.S. presidential election and how well they're doing right now and how well they could do ultimately in the general election vote. So you see here I'm on the Real Clear Politics four-way average. So you see here we have Republican Donald Trump, Democrat Joe Biden, and then also here we have Libertarian Joe Jorgensen, and Green Party uh, nominee Howie Hawkins. So these are the two third-party candidates included in the average. And we see here Joe Biden here registering at 51.4%, Trump at 43.2%, Joe Jorgensen at 2%, Howie Hawkins registering with a point here in the average. But yeah, so this average goes from sort of late September to mid-October where we are right now. The most recent poll here added to this average shows 6-point lead for Joe Biden and 2% going to Joe Jorgensen, 1% going to Howie Hawkins. So these two third-party candidates combined making a 3-point dent. And then same with the other most recent poll released also pretty recently, like yesterday, I think. But yeah. So yeah, now looking at this average here, Biden plus 8.2%. And then, looking at the two-way, it's plus 8.9%. But yeah, doesn't really look like these third-party candidates are hurting either Joe Biden or Trump or Donald Trump. Maybe there's a case to be made that more Jorgensen supporters would go one way, more Hawkins supporters would go one way. But, we don't notice too much of a difference in the average and in these individual polls. And so, yeah, this whole time, Jorgensen and Hawkins have been pretty steady. This average only goes back to September, but yeah. Jorgensen currently at 2%. Her peak on this average was in mid-September at 2.8%. And then Howie Hawkins here, his peak, maybe 1.4, right around here. But yeah, it doesn't really, those aren't really like peaks in my opinion. Like, I don't really know if there were literally more Jorgensen supporters at this time than there are now. It might have just been the way the averaging worked out here. But yeah, not really reaching those levels that we saw in 2016 where Gary Johnson was hitting 9% at points in the averages. So yeah, third-party candidates are not going to do as well this time as they did in 2016. Last time there was more of a drive for these third-party candidates. Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton, both had, not good favorability ratings at all. And 20% of the electorate didn't like either Trump or Clinton. And these people, I think, were going third party to an extent. And there were also just more people willing to go third party. And whereas now, I'm pretty sure that the favorability ratings may have improved for Trump. I don't recall if that's true, but Joe Biden, significantly better favorability ratings than Clinton. And I think I've seen somewhere that Joe Biden is winning over a lot of these former third-party voters back in 2016. So, yeah, Joe Jorgensen probably not going to do nearly as well as Gary Johnson. Not that he even did that amazing, but yeah, Howie Hawkins, in my opinion, not going to get 1%. But yeah. And also just the circumstances of the election, in my opinion, may be decreasing some of that drive for a third option. But yeah, in terms of Joe Jorgensen and Howie Hawkins, these are the two third-party candidates that could, actually make a dent, that are actually going to make some kind of dent. Other third parties really going to be practically invisible in terms of their support. And then, Kanye West, I don't know about him, probably also going to be below the levels of both Jorgensen and Hawkins. He barely has ballot access in a lot of states, so he doesn't even have ballot access posted in all 50 states. But anyway, Joe Jorgensen, let's start off talking about how well she's going to do. Joe Jorgensen is on the ballot in all 50 states in D.C. So she, I think, is the only third-party candidate right now to have across-the-board ballot access. So this is continuing that streak from 2016. Libertarians were the only other party other than Democrats and Republicans to achieve that across-the-board ballot access, all 50 states in D.C. Joe Jorgensen doing it again for the Libertarians. So states that I think she would do well are these states where third parties have traditionally done better. These more sparsely populated states. So let's open up a map here. And I'll just create this yellow where I think she's going to do better. And we're going to be talking about states where she might be able to crack that 5-point mark. So yeah, we're talking, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas, Alaska. Third parties doing better in these states. Let me show you guys Alaska here. Gary Johnson getting almost 6%. 2012. Not really that third party drive, but Gary Johnson getting a couple of points here. He only got 1% nationally in 2012. 2008, really not a good year for third parties at all, but it looks like a Ralph Nader here able to get a point. Really not significant, but 2000, yeah. Ralph Nader, he only got a couple of points nationally, but he got 10% in Alaska. Ross Perot, he did really well for a third party candidate. He got 19 points in the 1992 election, 19%, 8% in 1996. Good for a third party, quite strong. He was actually a real contender, maybe even the front runner at one point in the 1992 election. But 1992, he honestly wasn't too far from winning this state. I talked about in a video, what if Ross Perot hadn't dropped out of the race, because he had temporarily dropped out of the race. I'm talking about how I think he would have won a lot of states. I forgot to mention Alaska, but yeah, he would have won Alaska, in my opinion, if he hadn't dropped out in the middle and then rejoined. But yeah, just looking at these numbers, third parties doing better in Alaska and, Montana. So I'm just going to show you guys these states where Gary Johnson did pretty well for a third party. He got 6 points in Montana. And now New Mexico, he got 9 points. That's his home state, though. Colorado getting 5%. Up here in New England, we have Maine. He gets 5 points. New Hampshire, I think he did better than he did nationally. It looks like he got 4%. But yeah, we're talking about, for instance, states here like Maine. And then here in the West, the Dakotas, Montana, Wyoming, Alaska. These states that have, pretty much a lower population density. And then, for instance, Idaho here, Evan McMullen able to get 7%. Utah, his home state, he's able to get 21%. And then here in Oregon, I think combined third parties got a number of points. Looks like Gary Johnson getting 5, Jill Stein getting almost 3 points. So maybe this is one of those states where Jill Stein did a bit better. Nevada, I recall. Okay, it looks like Gary Johnson was only able to get a few points. Thought maybe Nevada was one of those stronger third-party states. Let's scroll down here. Yeah, Nebraska, for instance, is one of these states. So we're talking about these states, a lot of them more out west here, and they have lower population density, and they're in the western half of the country, the Great Plains, and then also some of these states like Oregon, Alaska, Maine. States where third parties really never seem to do well. They always seem to run very weak, are these southern states. So, for instance, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas. For instance, Ross Perot, when he ran in 1992, his weakest region was the South. And, in subsequent elections where there's been a third party that's actually sort of made a dent, the South, they've still been pretty invisible in terms of their share of the vote. So let's click on a few southern states here. Mississippi, Gary Johnson getting 1%. Let's look here. Alabama, just a point, just maybe 2 points. But Arkansas, Arkansas and Tennessee, I'm just going to show you guys. I'm going to wrap it up with Tennessee here. Tennessee. So you notice these southern states, weaker third-party support. So Jo Jorgensen, if she's looking for states where she can do well, the Great Plains is sort of where she can try to garner more support. So I'll just highlight these states pretty much. These states that I'm highlighting here. Easier for third parties to gain a bit of support, sort of make a bit of a dent. Oklahoma is a state I think I forgot about. Let me check Oklahoma. I'm pretty sure there was stronger. Yeah, Oklahoma here in this central region. And then let me check Kansas. Yeah, Kansas is one of these states where it looks like they garner a bit more. Gary Johnson almost cracked that 5-point mark. I think maybe another third-party candidate also did better here in Kansas. Jill Stein doing a bit better than she did nationally. So yeah, these states that I have highlighted here, more charitable to third-party candidates. And let's see if there's some more I'm missing. Yeah, New Hampshire, it looks like pretty good for third parties. And I'll finish here with Washington. I should probably include that state. These states that I have filled in here, more charitable to third-party candidates. So yeah, now let's isolate this down to these states where Gary Johnson cracked 5 points, because these are states where George Jorgensen can maybe do better. Alaska, I think the Dakotas, Colorado, Montana. Well, we won't go over every single one, but there were a selection of states where we cracked 5 or more points. And of course, he got over 9 in New Mexico. So George Jorgensen, she's getting 2% in this average here. Now, Gary Johnson, while he was able to get 9 at some points in the average, by election day, he'd gone down to 4 or 5, and he ultimately got just over 3. So, he underperformed his poll numbers a little bit, possibly, and maybe some of them split for a major party because they didn't want to waste their vote or thought Gary Johnson or Jill Stein would be a spoiler. But Jo Jorgensen, she's getting 2 right now. She'll probably actually stay at 2 because this 2%, it's not like it's going to wither away like it did for Johnson. Johnson was only able to hit 9 because people who maybe normally didn't always vote third party or maybe were just more mainstream type voters sort of just decided to split for one of the 2 major candidates. These people who are supporting Jorgensen in the polls right now, they're probably, in my opinion, more of them are going to stay with Jorgensen. But yeah, we're probably going to see her get under 2% of the popular vote. So it's going to be tough for her to get 5%, honestly, anywhere. But some places where she could do it, maybe the Dakotas, maybe Alaska. And let me show you guys this statewide poll I saw in Alaska that put Jorgensen up at 8% here. So this is a New York Times Siena College poll. They put Jorgensen up at 8%, which is a significant dent. And that's sort of her strongest state that I've seen so far. Let's look. What did Johnson get in Alaska again? 6 points. So I could definitely see her maybe getting 5% in Alaska. Maybe 5% in some more of these Great Plains states. But yeah, I don't really see her getting 5% in many states. Maybe 1 or 2 states she'll crack 5 points. But nationally, she'll most likely get less than 2%. And, maybe libertarians should be concerned about maybe losing ballot access. That's something to think about. Because, if they don't meet those quotas for support, they could be losing ballot access in some places. So, libertarians won't do as well. But, George Jorgensen, on the ballot across the board, 50 states in D.C., so that is one plus, one advantage they have as a third party. I think she has raised in the millions of dollars. Let me check here. Jo Jorgensen presidential campaign. It might be slightly out of date, the number they have here on Wikipedia, and I am just using Wikipedia for this video. But as of August 31st, 1.9 million. I think she's crossed that mark since then. So yeah, in the millions of dollars. Gary Johnson raising 12 million last time, but yeah, Jorgensen able to raise millions of dollars. Nothing like the hundreds of millions raised by the Republicans and Democrats, but yeah. So obviously libertarians won't win any electoral votes. They'll be lucky if they can crack 5% in some areas. But yeah, they're sort of maybe one of the more stable third parties, it seems. Sort of maybe one of the more well-known third parties. Now onto the Green Party. I want to show you guys, because they didn't get as much support as the Libertarian Party. They got 1.07%. They got 1 million votes, but yeah, Libertarians getting 4.5 million. Green Party here getting 1.5 million, 1.07%. And her strongest state, Jill Stein, she was the Green Party nominee. Vermont, she did well. Oregon, she did well. And yeah, I'm looking for some other states where she did a bit better. I think she did okay in Massachusetts. Hawaii might have been her strongest state. Yeah, I think Hawaii was her strongest state. But Jill Stein not able to crack 5 points anywhere in 2016, I don't think. Yeah, She wasn't able to crack 5 points anywhere. I really doubt Howie Hawkins can. Howie Hawkins getting a point nationally in these polls. Yeah, he's probably going to get maybe more of those 2012 type numbers that Jill Stein got in 2012, actually. So like 0.4. But yeah, I want to show you guys maybe his campaign here. Howie Hawkins 2020 presidential campaign. Maybe we can see his fundraising numbers. It looks like he's raised in the hundreds of thousands as of August 31st. But yeah. Now, one thing I want to tell you guys is, talk to you guys about is, the highest points that these third parties have registered in the polls. Just want to quickly go over Jorgensen getting 5 points at her highest point more. Howie Hawkins lucky if he can get 3 points. I've seen some polls that I don't think are included here on Real Clear Politics, but Jo Jorgensen at her top end when she has a good poll result, it's like 5%. Hawkins 2%. I think I saw one poll from a while ago that had him at 3. But yeah. So now one thing that's going to be happening in 2016 is there's going to be no Evan McMullin. So those margins in Utah are going to widen a lot for Trump probably. I could see that happening. And yeah, so no Evan McMullin. His party isn't going to live on because he wasn't a party. So he was just an independent candidate. So the Evan McMullin factor's gone. So Idaho possibly and Utah, those margins are going to widen for Trump probably. But yeah, so that's pretty much a wrap on this video, guys, about how well third parties are going to do in 2020 and how well they're doing right now. So 2 points for Jorgensen in the current polls, 1 point for Hawkins. And so yeah, definitely let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments about what you think about these 2020 third party candidates. You know, maybe I'm underestimating them. If you think that, definitely let me know in the comments. Or maybe you don't even think Jorgensen will crack a point. But yeah, I'm just genuinely curious in hearing you guys' thoughts on these third-party candidates in 2020. How well we could see them do. Maybe what some of their stronger states, what some of their weaker states could be. But yeah, definitely let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments. And, you know, if you like this type of content I make here on this channel about elections, you know, electoral maps, polling data, you know, going into these third-party candidates, all things elections, definitely subscribe to my YouTube channel because I think my videos are going to be right up your alley. But yeah, you know, I say it one last time. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and thought it was interesting. And I'll see you in the next election center video. Bye, guys.